Hey guys, I'm going to take a quick break as promised and go over this news article that came out in February in the Post Gazette, written by this guy here, Chris Mamula. One of the things that I always like to see is okay, what are some truths, what are some not truths out of the article, and how can we really spin this as prosthetists to make us better. And that's what I really want to take away from this. And then I had an opportunity to talk with Josh, and boy, was that a great conversation. So I also want to separate Josh and Humotech from this article because it's really unfair to put him and this author together. So right off the bat, just somebody walking, foot internally rotated, height might be a little bit off. Just not a great example of a prosthesis. And who knows, is this first time wearing a prosthesis? We just don't know. So again, and then we have this title, Artificial Limbs, a Backwater of Medicine, Get a New Look. It's obvious that this person, for some reason, it's was looking for an emotional headline, which prosthetics is emotional, and really just to get some clicks, because you got to have clicks to keep your job, apparently. So he starts off talking about this patient in a power wheelchair as she struggles for the fit of her artificial leg. Couple things that are just interesting. They use the use of laggard in modern medicine, part science, part craft, a specialty in which intuition and child's modeling compound and Play-Doh are still used to find the profit fit in an artificial leg. This is really just kind of an emotional piece. It is true that we are part science, part craft, and experience brings a long way. The child's modeling compound, you can use different things in different ways, sometimes to adjust fit or just see if you have contact. So that really does not strike me as odd. Just a bummer that it came out in that tone. Then we have this doctor that's been helping patients. I can't imagine that this doctor, if she was really helping patients, it's just a matter of guessing what might work best. Again, as a prosthetist and with a lot of years of experience, it's really not a guess. But as we go into talking with Josh about his product and Humotech, I definitely see where they might be trying to lead somebody in here. No Yelp for silicone rubber limbs. I don't know exactly what that is. I'm guessing it's a liner, and it is correct that they come out of a box, but they are sized specifically for the patient. Some of them are custom. There is no Yelp, but there are Google reviews. So if somebody's looking for a prosthetist, they can definitely Google the facility and find out a patient's review. Facebook is also big. So definitely don't discount this part. It is important as a prosthetist and a person as a part of a business to make sure that your business is trying to reach those patients most effectively, and that you do look over your website, make sure that patients can connect, and the reviews are important. There's no doubt. What's more, a poorly fitted artificial limb can start a downward spiral in overall health of an amputee. You know what? I was just visiting with a vascular surgeon 3-4 weeks ago, and they said this exact same thing. And I know it's a statistic, but he is one that kind of is in on some of these statistics. If we can't get a patient up and going, especially if they've had an amputation due to diabetes or peripheral vascular disease, if we can't get them going, they will lose their leg in another 3 to 5 years, and after 5 years, the mortality rate goes significantly up. A lot of times, they don't even make it 5 years. So a prosthesis is definitely an important part of the rehab process. Now, getting to Josh, Sorry, Josh, if I kind of butcher your name a little bit. Caputo, Caputo. Um, I just talked to him as Josh at Humotech. Really neat company. This article, I wish it would have done a little bit more justice. It's definitely a little bit fragmented as far as it talks about this patient experience, and then it jumps into him. Um, so let's just look through this real quick. 2015 employs 5 people. Uh, Real-time evaluation of various artificial lower limb designs while shortening the time from months to hours in a new prosthetic device. I talked to Josh a little bit about this, and the idea was just to give the prosthetist and the patient an idea of, does the patient like a soft heel? Do they like a harder heel? Do they like a soft toe? Do they like a harder toe? How much motion do they like in their foot? And taking all that data and boiling it down to what is best for the patient. That's what Josh is actually talking about. And so I can definitely see how they come to this point, as far as if me as a prosthetist, I get, say, 3 feet for a patient to try, and I have to send a few back and send a patient out on one, see if they like it, and they come back and then switch it out. That can be time consuming. So the idea with this machine that Josh has, this emulator, is actually really cool. Let's see if there was a picture of it. Let's just Google it real quick. All right, it's this actuator. Let's see. No. Ankle prosthesis. Here we go. So what this, I mean, it's so cool. The idea that Josh has with this is that a patient, you can actually put them on a treadmill with this actuator, and then you can real time check the heel stiffness, toe stiffness, and dial it real time for the patient and find out what they like. And then guess what? You can order more closely to what the patient really wants. I think it's a great idea, and I'm glad I looked into it a little bit more. And then he gave me the time to talk to him as well. It is definitely something very slick, something worthwhile thinking about. And apparently he's installed about 12 of them at some different facilities, and going really well. So let's go back to this. So here we go, Humatech. So one of the things that I did realize with Josh was, as an engineer with no real experience in prosthetics, but a very good roboticist, he wanted to figure out a way to help people. And when he got into the field, he realized that there were some definite issues with prosthetics and billing and time to delivery, getting the right foot and such. And so all he was really trying to do is, how can we take some quantitative data and kind of boil it down and put it and give it to the prosthetist, so the prosthetist is able to be helped to get the right foot on a patient or a right device for a patient. Technology, and he said this over and over and over again, technology is just a part of the answer. He said, I would have never even guessed the other part of the answer is kind of the administrative, the billing and insurance side, with reimbursements going down, costs going up. There's definitely some things that we have to do better. And this, again, is just a tool in our toolbox. This, highly fragmented industry against very just emotionally charged. Diabetes this is true. Very nice. Consulting or Googling something on Empty Coalition of America. There you go. Rise in diabetes. Yep. Hanger controls 20% of the prescription orthotic prosthetic market. Maybe. maybe more than that. That no competitor has more than 2%. I can't disagree with that. Um, this is a big number, global market for $1.62 billion. Um, so again, then he hits this kind of emotionally charged thing. Despite inspiring stories of war veterans being fitted with the latest high-tech arm, the far more common storyline is one which a doctor writes a prescription for an artificial leg, and a master's degree trained prosthetist fills it using intuition and a rubber off-the-shelf device. So not really true. Again, emotionally charged here. It's more than intuition, just like a doctor writes a prescription. We definitely follow the prescription, but then using experience, education, and other things, we try to come up with the right device for the patient. There is not only the master's degree, we have residencies, board exams. A lot of states have licensure, so it's just not a random person fitting a prosthesis. Patients are more or less stuck with first prosthetic. Actually, that should be prosthesis. They receive because insurers will not pay for a replacement for 7 years. I don't believe that Josh really. This was kind of a overall idea, is that insurers will pay for a prosthesis every specific amount of time, but the truth is, insurances will pay if there's for a different prosthesis or a change in a prosthesis if there is a change in the medical necessity of the patient. So, for instance, if somebody weighed 350 pounds and you fit them with a prosthesis at 350 pounds and they lose 50 pounds, then obviously the socket's going to be very small or big for them, and then the foot and everything will not be the correct category for them. So at that time, a new prosthesis can be delivered. So kind of an embellished term here. Fit versus cool technology. Again, some emotional clickbait type of stuff. Lego building blocks. I believe that is true. Good university here. Doctorate in mechanical engineering, and I can attest. I mean, Josh was great to talk with, super smart, but the heart behind it, of his company and such, was just so genuine. He wanted to develop the technology, but it's not the solution to every problem in the world, and he wanted to make sure that we as prosthetists know that he really he feels inspired by us, and a lot of the things that we do inspire him and then turn around and help him create a better product, which in turn creates a better patient outcome. So this is interesting. Yeah, so it's not about everybody gets a $100,000 prosthesis. That's true. I mean, when I go to Guatemala, I'm fitting a prosthesis below the knee that costs about $150 and above the knee about $250, all new pieces and parts, and these patients are doing great in them. No liners, all the stuff that we have here in the U.S. or in first world to make a prosthesis comfortable, we don't necessarily have. So it's not about how much money we can spend on a prosthesis. So very true on that. Insurance was a big issue when we were talking to Josh. He just did not realize how big of a thing it was. I would agree with this brilliant roboticist. And coachable. I mean, coachable and open to learning. When we talked for nearly an hour, and it was just a great back and forth. Both of us learning from each other, so I can definitely vouch for that. Entrepreneur, very cool. And then we get into this technology hasn't bypassed the field of prosthetics. Okay, very, very neat. Load sensors, computer chips, and other gizmos. Another, just a weird choice of words. Unless gizmos is a tag or a hashtag, that would be neat. So, a foot guided by a prosthetic chip, replaced by a hydraulic piston-equipped knee. Again, these not all correct, depending on what knee it is. Some of them pneumatic, some of them are hydraulic, some of them have a computer chip in them. So it's not like one or it can be a combination of both. The patient said, "Hey, it's better." He likes his new knee, so that is good. And then this little thing, Mr. Irway's knee cost his health insurer $60,000. I would go into my um, reimbursement here, but I recently checked. I think a computerized knee reimburses around $25,000, something like that. It's not too crazy. Maybe the whole prosthesis was billed out at $60,000. The allowables after everything's taken away and down, some are probably between $30,000 and $40,000. So this number, not really a true number. And I say $30,000 to $40,000, and then you're into it for, $25,000 to $28,000, something like that. So that lets you clear somewhere between, depending on what you're reimbursed, $2,000 to $10,000. And you got to remember that we're taking care of the patients for the next 3 years after that. So you got to be good. The money's high because the risk is high. The leverage is high. I mean, our risk on taking on a patient and laying out that kind of money and then seeing the patient for 3 years is incredible, and we don't get paid per patient visit. So yes, it's going to be expensive. Rejection of claims, yes and no. I mean, we're getting authorization and such. Insurers increasingly demand proof. I've got no problem with that. Sometimes it goes overboard, but that's one of the things that is neat about some of the computerized and stuff and the technology is that we can actually give the insurers proof. It's just a matter of us documenting well. Artificial lower limbs start at $19,000. Not a true statement again. It's probably closer to $4,000 was where they start with a below the knee, and then they kind of go up from there. I remember just recently I fit a below the knee prosthesis. I looked at the allowable of what we're going to get. It's going to be like $10,500, and it's a full hydraulic foot, nice socket, liners, all that. So you're talking middle top of the line for still 10.5. So that number's way off, but maybe the insurance company was billed that much. There's not enough evidence to guide decision making. Again, I think this was a little bit taken out of context from Josh. His whole thing is, I want to create evidence so prosthetists don't have this issue of billing, and that we can actually prove that a patient needs this specific device. So probably not the exact right context, but I understand the heart of it behind it after I talked to Josh. Humotech's product called the Emulator is a souped up treadmill. Kind of a weird choice of words there. Kind of true, but takes some of the science out of it, I guess, to try out the next generation artificial feet and legs. So it tests the qualities, heel, toe, motion, that sort of thing. Emulators, I don't doubt it. These are one-off deals, and he does ship across the country. What's interesting out of all this is devices are not used to fit patients today because Medicare nor commercial insurances reimburse for the services. So it's just a disconnect. We need the information to give to the insurers, but we can't use some things that may be good tools because we just can't afford to do it. So that may be something that's interesting in the future. This new research, trial and error guesswork. I mean, it is neat. The emulator is neat with being able to change the resistances. So this very much came through. Mr. Caputo worries about making it all fit. You know, it's just difficult. It's a hard road to go on with prosthetics, especially in the developing technology, research and development side of things. So it's a hard way to make some money. But in the end, and this is what Josh said over and over again, was he wants the outcomes for the patient to be better and the tools for the prosthetist to be better as well. So it says, I'm still figuring it out, but to be successful, we need to change everything, rewire the whole industry. That is actually not what Josh said. That is maybe what was inferred or translated by. He does thinks are getting excited, but he does not believe that we need to change everything. He is willing to be along for the ride and provide the information to make things better, but the changing everything is really not the case. So that is my review of this story. I read a couple of the comments here. Just a couple of things. This is interesting. We are required by insurances to do a one-time billing for the device, whether it takes up 4 appointments or 14. There are no copays or appointment fees for charge when receiving a prosthesis. Play-Doh is a tool to assess limb contact and socket when we have the no ability to see through. It assesses fit, not a way of making legs. Yep. So apparently he knows Josh. That's great. Proper foot selection. I think that's great. Then we have this one. Maybe feel threatened by disruptive technology. Before you criticize the engineer, you should research his credentials. I totally agree. I mean, I was going to come down pretty hard on Josh and Chris, but then after looking into it, and I put a lot of time in, I actually listened to over an hour podcast with Josh, and I got to hear and feel his heart for the industry. So how do you improve an industry without cutting edge and outside the box thinking? Totally agree. And it's something that we need to move forward with. Yeah. And then we got inaccurate. So, you know what? The author may be wrong, but there are some definite truths that are in this. And then we have Aaron. It's kind of hard with this one. Very emotionally charged article. He's definitely right about the inaccuracy, horrible piece of reporting, but there's no reason to get into all that. Let's take out some of the positives. And this is, here's one. Talk to a prosthetist, Chris. There's plenty of us around, or just Google it. When I Googled prosthetist and prosthetics, some of the stuff came out. So, very interesting. And just a quick look at Chris's account here. No ties to prosthetists or anything. So, and I did try to reach out to Chris, actually on Twitter. I invited him to come to Guatemala with me so he could see what prosthetics were doing in the developing world. And Chris, if you ever watch this, that invite still stands. I'd love to have you. After that one, it looks like we have Eileen Levis. She's the president of Pennsylvania Orthotic and Prosthetic Society. This was a good article, kind of a rebuttal, and I think she pretty much stayed, out of the emotional side. The article is flawed, erroneous, and misleading in terms of prosthetists and prosthetic care. Very true. There are prosthetists licensed. To become a prosthetist, you have to have a master's degree, complete a residency program, and pass multiple exams. And then you have to get a license on top of that. We work as a team with physicians and the physical therapists. We use outcome measures that are widely accepted, so we're not guessing. You can either scan or mold, so digital aspect, very true. Um, Rubber prosthesis, definitely not the right word used in that last article. This talks about all the test sockets. So when we fit these prostheses, sometimes we use multiple sockets to make sure that the patient is happy with the final device. And then again about the if the condition changes, we're able to make another prosthesis. The care is ongoing. This is definitely something and is important to know as part of the fee that we get for what we do for patients. All the professional services, long-term and short-term, are provided with no additional reimbursement. It's tough. It's tough. Technology advances or just other areas of medicines have been outstanding. This is a very good point. Falls are a major costly health risk to amputees, and some of the new technologies do show that we reduce falls with this, and the reduction of falls means less time in the OR and surgeries and such. So a prosthesis, and actually a high-tech prosthesis, can actually save big money down the line for patients. And I totally agree with this last piece here. The Post Gazette should choose to publish healthcare-related articles. Perhaps the stories should be given more facts-based and less used as advertising tool for any given individual or company. If they want factual information about the practice of prosthetics, contact the American Board for Certification and the American Orthotic and Prosthetic Association and the National Association for Advancements of Orthotics and Prosthetics. So, yeah, true. I mean, just Google a little bit. I mean, that would have been good. Save a whole lot of grief. But what's interesting and what I love is that this has caused some prosthetists and orthotists to kind of get off the bench and be a part of the solution. Reach out. And I love that. So, not a great article, but in the end, I think we're going to get some good things and some discussion going. So, thank you, Chris, for that. Thank you, Josh, for clarifying your position. I love the company. And let me see. I'm just checking my notes here to make sure that I hit everything. So I definitely suggest you check out Josh at Humotech and what he's doing. If you ever see him, say hey. He is an amazing person and looks to be an amazing roboticist. So if you guys are watching all the way to the end here, thank you so much for watching. And maybe we'll do this again. This was a long one.